Here we go. Hey, this is Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, and I'm Doug. Today we're going to share with you one of the ways that you can save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your electricity bill every single year. Now, if you're new to our channel, my name's Doug, my wife's name's Stacy. We live in the Midwest in a log cabin that we built ourselves that wasn't a kit. And you know, we got tired of city living, so we wanted to live out on a homestead. We have 11 acres where we grow as much food as we can for ourselves. And we do just a bunch of other neat stuff here on our channel, so you might want to sit back, relax, hit that subscribe button, and even go back and watch some of our older videos so you can get caught up. We're kind of entertaining, and we like to have a good time, and we share a lot of tips, tricks, and health stuff. My wife has a passion for teaching healthy living as far as eating and foods, and just avoiding all these chemical baths that society has us trapped in on a daily basis. So back to our reason for this video. So what we're going to do here is we're going to share with you a secret on how you can save a ton of money on your electric bills. So sit back and relax. Hopefully you enjoy this video. Now stay tuned, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a couple of announcements during this video, and I'm telling you, you guys are going to want to stay tuned, and you're going to want to hear these announcements.
Well, this is a sun oven. It just folds up, carries like a suitcase. It weighs 23 pounds, and setting it up takes just a matter of seconds. Simple one-piece construction. The reflectors open up. It's got a little notch here, and you put this in and turn it, and that locks it in place for the wind.
And that's what Doug and I we didn't even know that did that. So right here on the flaps, this thing turns and it locks it in so it doesn't go anywhere.
And so then you can take and you can put your food inside here. A sun oven can bake, it can boil, it can steam foods, it can dehydrate foods, it can pasteurize water. We'll talk about all of that as we go through the day today, but right now I just want to explain a little bit about it. It also has this leg built in the back that allows you to raise or lower the sun oven to meet the sun wherever it is in the horizon. So in the early morning, late afternoon, winter, you can raise it up. In the summer, you leave it pretty much sitting down, and you just lock it in place, and then it stays wherever the sun is. And it also has a bar here and a leg that will keep it stable, but if it's real windy, it comes with stakes. You can actually stake it in the ground to keep it from blowing over on a winding day.
And I use that a lot, especially it's very windy here, so I do use that.
And you can use the sun oven, by the way, on the ground or on a table. If you're using it on a table, you can still use that. Just take a bungee cord, hook the hook of the bungee cord and wrap it around the table leg, and then that will keep it from blowing over. But what's nice is if you do realign it to follow the sun with food in it, then your food doesn't spill. It has this leveling rack that keeps your food from spilling. So you can keep the food level regardless. So if you've got something liquid, you don't have to take it out each time you realign it to follow the sun. Now there's two ways to cook when you cook in a sun oven. And let's say you were going to make a 3-pound chicken. If you took a 3-pound chicken, you put it in a pot and you put it in the sun oven, and you then realigned it every 30 minutes to follow the sun, you can cook a 3-pound chicken about an hour and a half. Or if you wanted to, even early in the morning, you could take a frozen chicken, you could put it in the sun oven early in the morning and set the sun oven facing south where the sun is in the middle of the day, leave, come back at supper, and you'd have a cooked roast.
Chicken is the best in this thing. It's so tender.
It's amazing how moist it is. See, when you cook in the sun oven, nothing burns and nothing dries out, so it's the most forgiving way to cook you'll ever find, because it's pretty much impossible to burn things and impossible to dry things out.
So if you don't cook, this is a great thing to use because it's easy.
The sun oven has these easy track indicators that take the guesswork out of it lying in the sun. If you look inside this cube here, you notice that the hole on the top is bigger than the hole on the bottom. So all I want to do to center is move it so that when the sun shines through the top hole and is centered over the bottom hole, then I know it's aligned with the sun. So there's no guesswork to that.
It's like an eclipse.
Exactly. And by the way, there's two of those. So this one is good if you were looking at it now from behind and seeing it. This one over here, we'll move back a little bit to see, but if you were standing next to it and you had it on a table, you would be able to then see that it's aligned in the sun. And then as the sun goes, obviously, if we started early in the morning, we'd have it facing east. In the middle of the day, we'd have it facing towards the south, and at the end of the day, towards the west, and we just keep moving it, and we would raise and lower it to meet the sun.
And when you have both of those holes in alignment, you're going to get the strongest sun. So if you needed to cook something with a less temperature, you would just kind of maybe not make it in much alignment.
Exactly. Well, we're going to start by making a turkey, and we've got here about an 11-pound turkey. What we did is we rubbed some butter on the skin. By doing that,
and it wasn't just butter,
it wasn't
Paul.
butter? Okay.
It was ghee that I made in the All-American Sun Oven, so we'll link that above.
And so what we've done is we put it into a baking bag, and the baking bag allows you to make a little bit bigger turkey, but for this size turkey we could actually use an oval roasting pan.
Right,
but,
a 10-pound oval pan. You can do that because it comes with this nice little rack. It's a little different than the one that comes in the
so this
sun
is the
oven.
turkey roasting rack, and so what we're going to do is we've taken the leveling rack out of the sun oven, and now we are going to take and put the turkey rack into the oven, which I should have thought to put gloves on first and didn't. But it's very hot in here. We preheated it. It's right now right about 300 degrees. We're going to put this in here, and then this will be cooking for this size turkey. It will probably take about 6 hours to cook if we do realign it with the sun. We're starting now in the afternoon, so we are going to realign it. Oftentimes what I'll do is just put it in first thing in the morning. Just let it realign it 2 or 3 times throughout the day, and then it's done at supper. You can't overcook it, so it's not going to be a problem.
And it's so good now with it being summer still. We have long days, so.
And any time I've ever made a turkey, anybody's eaten it has said the light meat is more moist than a dark meat turkey I've ever eaten. It's just amazing how moist the turkey will be. Okay, we're going to talk about making hard-boiled eggs in the sun oven. The amazing thing about making hard-boiled eggs here is that the eggs we're going to put in all have been laid within the last 24 hours, so they're very fresh eggs.
And we also have duck eggs too today.
And we have, we can do 2 dozen eggs at the same time. When we put them in the sun oven, what will be nice is that once we hard boil them, we don't even use water, but we'll be able to take these freshly laid eggs and they'll peel very, very easily. Both the duck eggs and the chicken eggs. So we're going to put them in now. We're going to put them in for about an hour, and then in an hour we'll come back and I'll show you how we can test to make sure to know that they're already hard boiled.
And it's amazing. The first time I ever done this, because I never like to boil eggs, and this makes it so simple. This is the only way I like to do my eggs, and it's very simple. I can't believe how easy they peel with no water or anything.
Another thing to keep in mind is if you put a whole bunch of eggs in a pot, and you put it in here, they'll hard boil fine, but anywhere the eggs touch each other, you're going to get a brown spot on the white of the egg. But if you take these cardboard egg cartons, rip the lids off of them, and put it in, then you don't get any brown spots. It works fine. You can't use styrofoam ones. They'll melt, but the cardboard ones will work great. They'll keep them separated. It'll take about an hour in a preheated sun oven to make these 2 dozen eggs. We've got 6 sun ovens going. We're making a lot of different things. My absolute favorite thing to make in the sun oven is actually the simplest thing, and that's corn on the cob. If you want delicious, moist corn on the cob, all we've done is take this corn, we've soaked it in some water. We're going to just take and literally pile it up right on the rack of the sun oven, and we'll have perfect corn on the cob. Later you'll see when we peel it back and put some butter and salt on it, it'll literally melt in our mouth. But all we do is we soak it, we leave it in the husks. Then we can take all of these ears of corn. Now if I had a couple pots in here, I could actually do several ears of corn around the sides and on the top of the corn. Yeah, it's sizzling with the water that's dripping inside. So that'll cause a little bit of steam, but it's not going to hurt anything. So we'll put this corn in now. We'll come back in a little while and sample it and see how well it worked. Well, you can make pretty much any kind of bread that you want to bake in the sun oven. You can make white bread or wheat bread or sourdough bread, gluten-free breads, pretty much any kind of bread.
Anything you can bake in a regular oven, you can bake in the sun oven. Right.
However, there are a couple of things you do different when you bake bread in the sun oven. One, of course, it's extremely important, just like in your regular oven, you do need to preheat the sun oven. Generally, a sun oven will preheat to 300 degrees in about 20 minutes, so it doesn't take a long time to preheat it. However, when you proof your bread, you don't proof it, you don't raise it to the same height that you normally do. You raise it till it's about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch below the top of the bread pan. Now the reason for that is the even heat in the sun oven. What's going to happen is I preheated that sun oven, I don't know, someplace between 325 350 degrees. When I open the door and put the bread in, the bread is at the ambient temperature. So the temperature, because every part of the sun oven is an even heat, the temperature in the sun oven is going to drop 50 to 75 degrees and gradually start to come up. Well, if you've already proofed your bread to its normal height, when that temperature drops and then goes, your bread could over raise and then it will fall. So by starting with this, it will be at just the right height. The other thing that I'll do is take and spray a light mist of water on the dough just before putting it in. The reason for that is that will allow the bread to brown even at a lower temperature. Now normally I can bake 1 loaf of bread in about 45 minutes in a preheated sun oven. 2 loaves take an hour and 10 minutes. But a lot of times when we do shows and events, I'll bake bread and people come stand in front of the sun oven, look at it and say, wow, I can't believe the bread's baking. Well, of course they're blocking the sun. Right. So I baked bread at temperatures as low as 250 and baked it for over 3 hours. And it's a function of the time, but it doesn't affect the quality of the bread. Or I don't know how many times I've been baking bread and forget about it and leave it in for an extra hour and it still doesn't dry out. So just spray these with a nice mist of water, and then I'm going to take and bring them over. We'll put them in the sun oven. We've got it preheated now to about 340 degrees, but I could do the same thing at 275 degrees or at 400 degrees. It really wouldn't make any difference.
So hopefully you guys are enjoying this video. It's chock full of information. I bet you never knew that the All-American Sun Oven was so versatile. Basically, we wanted to hold a webinar for you guys, and we had some technical difficulties. So Paul reached out and he said, would you mind putting that video on your YouTube channel? And that way we can get the awareness out there. People can check it out. And I said, hey, that's not a problem. You know, we're also interested in promoting American-made businesses. This is an American-made company. They build these things right here in America. And these are the best solar cookers on the market today. So hopefully you guys understand why we're doing this. It's to help out the family-run business, but it's also to bring this information to you guys so you can utilize it, save tons of money on your stuff, add this to your preps. And
well, I just went ahead and made a brownie because Doug loves his dessert, so why not make 3 pans of brownies? And you can do that in a sun oven.
Yeah, well, it's great. Keep in mind that the entire chamber of the sun oven is an even heat, so you can cook a lot more than one thing. Sometimes people say, boy, it's too small, I need a lot of sun ovens. But like with these brownies, we made 3 pans, and we'll just take and
you can stack. Yeah,
cross stack them. And so what we'll do is we'll go and open the sun oven here, and you can see it's starting out about 350 degrees, so it's ideal for brownies. And we're going to put this one in like this, then we'll take the next one and cross stack it.
And that's mostly everything that you bake. 350 is a perfect temperature, and the sun oven seems to consistently keep that temperature.
So now we've got the 3 trays in here. We'll just close it up. We're going to talk about drying and dehydrating in the sun oven. Besides being able to cook in it, you can also use it as a solar dryer or dehydrator. What we have on the table here that we're going to dry is we're going to make some sun-dried tomatoes. You know, that time of year where you always have way too many tomatoes. One of the wonderful things is if you sun-dry them, they'll last a long time. You said you still have some from last year that you sun-dried.
Yes, I do. I still have a few in my jar.
And so when you sun-dry, basically, these are racks. There's 3 racks and a roll of parchment paper that are part of the dehydrating kit that's available with the sun oven, and these racks then stack 3 high. And now keep in mind that even though we're using the parchment paper, once we're done with this, you can reuse each piece of parchment paper someplace between 6 to 12 times. You don't have to throw it away each time.
So this does last a very, very long time. I love this parchment paper.
And the you just slice, like with the tomatoes, we slice them very thin. We put them on here. We want to keep them separated from each other. We'll put them in, and this will probably take someplace in the vicinity of 6-7 hours to dry these 3 trays. Now, keep in mind that when you dry, you always want to dry things other than herbs. You dry pretty much everything else at a temperature that's someplace between 110 and 155 degrees Fahrenheit. When that needle gets up to 180, then you start cooking. So you want to stay at a lower temperature when you're going to dry in the sun oven. We'll put these in, and I'll explain how to adjust the doors so that allows the air to vent for drying. Now with herbs, usually with herbs, you'll find that if you sun dry herbs at a temperature not to exceed 100 degrees, usually between 95 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so many of the natural oils and many of the vitamins stay in the herbs. So sun drying herbs, even if you have the ability to do them in an electric dehydrator, you'll find that you'll get a lot more nutritional value out of the herbs if you dry them in the sun. Yep,
for sure. And this is the oregano, and I mean, it does dehydrate. I really like the way that the sun oven dehydrates my herbs.
And we've got a electric dehydrator, and we did herbs in it one time and just turn it on. Of course, when that fan cooks on, then you got them all
over
over
the place.
So doing them in here allows you the advantage of being able to do them at a lower temperature. Now I've left the door of this oven open because I wanted it to cool down because I'd preheated it. And I'm going to put the gloves on, so if I bump the wall, keep in mind that it's very hot in the oven when you've preheated it.
So don't forget your mitts and your pot holders, because I burnt myself many times.
And I mean, I don't know what it is, but you always look at it and say, that doesn't look hot, until you stick your hands in there and then you realize it is. I should do this from the front. I just didn't want to have my back end shining from the camera. But I'm going to take these 3 trays. I'm going to set them now right on the leveling rack inside the sun oven. I'm going to make sure they're in the right place. Now, and I'm going to just, so it's easy to see on camera.
And here's the trick.
Okay, I'm going to take and open the reflectors, or close the reflectors just so you can see it. But basically, when we cook, we latch these latches tight to form an airtight seal. But when we dry, we want to turn the latches in, set the glass on top of it. If you notice now, there's a gap of air between that gray gasket and the glass. That will allow the moist air to escape. So I will line the sun oven. Right now it's aligned pretty much where the sun would be for cooking. So I set it here, and then I move it the opposite way of the sun is traveling. In this hemisphere, I move it back towards the east, 6 or 8 inches, and I will always want to keep it more out of the sun because I'd rather keep it at a lower temperature so it dries quicker. So we'll come and check on these later and see how they're doing. Alrighty, well, I want to talk about what kind of pots and pans you can use in the sun oven. The thing you always want to keep in mind when you're cooking in the sun is that everything you cook, with the exception of bakery goods, you cook in a pot or a pan with a lid on it. And the reason for that is the sun oven has an airtight seal that traps the air inside, and if you cook in an open pot, what's going to happen is the moisture will escape from the pot, it will fog the inside of the glass in the sun oven, and then that will make it so that it decreases the temperature. Now, the most efficient kind of pots and pans to use are enamelware pots. These are the same things your turkey roaster is made out of. The enamelware is just a steel pot that's coated with enamel, and this is the most efficient because it's thin and it's dark. Keep in mind, in a sun oven, the whole chamber is the same temperature. So the reason food doesn't burn when you have it in the sun oven is that when you have food inside a pot in the sun oven, the food inside the pot itself, the air around the pot is the same temperature. Now, you think about your stove burner, you're always transferring the heat from the stove burner to the pot to the food, so if you don't stir it, it burns.
It's going to burn.
But in here, it doesn't burn because it's an even heat.
And that happens to me quite often. Always around the edges, and this is always perfectly cooked all throughout the whole thing.
And so by cooking in the thin pot, it takes less time, and that's by far the most efficient. But anything that's oven safe, you can use in the sun oven. For example, a lot of people like using glassware like Corningware or Pyrex. That works real well. But glassware will take about 15% longer to cook than the enamelware will. So if you're just add a few minutes to your cooking time, it really then doesn't make any difference. Now, there's 2 ways to cook in the sun oven, as I might have mentioned. Basically what you do, if you put a chicken in a pot, if you realign it every 30 minutes, you can cook a 3-pound chicken in a preheated sun oven in about an hour and a half. To do that, you would need to cook that quickly, you would need to use the enamelware. But you could also take a frozen chicken, and the only reason we say a frozen chicken is if you're going to leave the meat unattended and you're not able to preheat it and put it early in the morning. The danger zone for meat is you don't want meat to be between 40 degrees and 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 consecutive minutes. That's where you get salmonella, that's where there's big issues. So if you take and say put a chicken in at 8 o'clock in the morning and set the sun oven where the sun is going to be at noon and leave it unattended, you're going to have time then where the meat's in the danger zone. But if you take a frozen chicken and you put it in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you set the sun facing where it's going to be at noon, what's going to happen is from 8 until 10, it's going to be defrosting. From 10 to 2, there'll be sun overhead shining into the oven, and it will be cooking, and then it will stay warm for hours after that. Now, to slow cook, I like using a Dutch oven or a cast iron pot. Now, a Dutch oven takes an hour and a half longer to come up to temperature than the enamelware pot will. So using the cast iron pot takes a lot longer to cook because it takes so long to come up to temperature. But the benefit of the cast iron pot, especially if you're going to leave food unattended all day, is
warm.
Once it gets warm, the
Right.
retained heat of the Dutch oven inside the well-insulated sun oven will allow your food to finish cooking even if it starts raining,
Right.
and it'll stay warm for hours. Now, this cast iron Dutch oven got feet on the bottom. So you can actually set this, take the leveling rack out and set it right inside the sun oven. You never want to set a pot or a pan on the floor of the sun oven, because if you have the pot or pan on the floor, you don't have airflow around
Sure.
it. You don't get that even heat. So these legs are perfect to be able to use this size Dutch oven if you want to cook something larger and you're going to leave it all day. Now,
Because that's, you know, I've never used this Dutch oven in there, and now after talking to you today, I definitely will. I never even thought about trying it.
especially a day where you're not going to be around all day.
Sure,
That's
because
the
you can put more
perfect-
food in there. I can put a lot of food in there.
You can put a lot of food in there, and if you're not going to be
Chili or
there, all day,
something,
yeah,
would
I
be
mean,
great,
when you're
yeah.
around and you check it periodically, then using the regular, the Enamelware pots are fine, but the Dutch oven works real well. Now,
Yeah.
the thing you do want to keep in mind is you can use any kind of pot or pan that's oven safe. However, a shiny pot, like this pot lid is shiny, will reflect light out of the sun oven and will then decrease the temperature. You can still get away with using it if you just take a dark dish towel, you cover over the shiny
There you
part so
go.
it doesn't reflect the light out, and it will work fine. Now, by the way, you do want to use a natural fiber. If you use some synthetic fiber, nothing will ever catch on fire in the sun oven, but some synthetic fibers might actually melt.
Like
But
cottons, linens, things like
that work perfectly with it, and then it covers over. And so it takes an hour and a half longer to come up to temperature, but it retains the heat real well. We'll see a little bit later when we get into making brownies that we won't be limited in making like one tray of brownies. We can take and we can cross stack trays right on the leveling rack, and we're able to then cook more than one tray of brownies or
So
flat
if you have a
breads or
big
anything.
family, there you go.
You can do that, or I can be cooking in these stackable pots. See, these pots that come with the sun oven have a swedge base or indented base that allow you then to be able to stack them too high, but I could actually be cooking two different things there, take 2 quart-sized mason jars, put them next to it, and be able to cook 4 things at the same time. So I could cook a complete meal, 4 different things, and these pots do have a domed lid and a glass lid. I use the glass lid for almost everything, only because when I use the glass lid, I can see what's going on with it. The only time I use the dome lid is like if I'm doing a roast that's raised up on the top.
Because you get a little bit more room in there.
Later, we'll be making some corn on the cob, and
you know what's good is, like, you know, a lot of us are canning and doing things in the garden, so you could just go ahead and put your, except for on the lid, you need to make sure maybe put a plastic lid on there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be a plastic lid. Again, if you use your regular canning lid, just take and cover it.
Cover it up.
And it will work just fine. And some people will take a couple canning lids and take some black spray paint and spray them black,
so
and
they're
then
dark.
they don't reflect it and they don't have to bother covering it. And but again, if I wanted to, I could be cooking in here, and I could take 2 or 3 ears of corn on the top, on the sides, and on the top I could cook probably 6 ears of corn at the same time.
Put your potatoes, corn, your roast,
anything that
dessert,
you want to put
so
in.
everything. You could have your dessert, you could have your chicken, you could have your corn and your potatoes all in there.
And so you're able to pretty much cook, now if you're going to bake bread, and we'll be doing that in a little while as well, it's designed so you can have 2 bread pans, and again, some people, these pans are a non-stick Teflon that some people don't like using. You can use your cast iron bread pans, you can use glass bread pans, you can use any kind of bread pan that you choose with it. And you can also, these dehydrating and baking racks are ideal. There's 3 of them in a set, and we're using one for something else right now, so I've only got the 2 here, but you can stack things too high, and then if you wanted to, you can actually make, you know, besides for cooking or drying, you can use these for flatbreads or quiches or cookies, or so it works really well, and then you can do 4 layers at a time. And by the way, in the interest of full disclosure, earlier when I said nothing burns, that's not quite true. Cookies do burn, but they burn perfectly evenly.
Right.
So
if you like burnt brownies, the whole brownie will have that instead of just the edges.
With cookies and things that have a high sugar content,
they just dry out.
They actually, you leave cookies in 10-15 minutes too long, you don't notice the difference. You leave cookies in for 30-40 minutes too long, eventually they turn black, but they turn back evenly. We actually held the Guinness record for 2 years on making the largest number of cookies that have ever been made. And we did it in Miami, Florida, to raise money to send sun ovens to Haiti for a project after the Haiti earthquake, and we cooked thousands of cookies, had a federal judge moderate it and send in the official results of the gift. So believe me, I know a lot about making cookies. And this is one of Stacy's muffin tins. It's great. You can put a couple of these if you choose to and use it for muffins. So pretty much anything that's oven safe can be used in the sun oven, but again, you just want to keep in mind you never want to set a pot or a pan directly on the floor of the sun oven. If you do want to make something larger, you can fold these arms in, and then you can put this in the bottom or put a trivet in the bottom to raise it up, or when you have it on the tray, then of course it keeps it
just as long as you don't put anything in the very bottom.
On the very bottom, you need airflow all the way around everything you're cooking, and again, you always need to have a lid on the pot. Alrighty, well, keep in mind that even though we call it an oven, a sun oven is able to bake, but it can also boil and steam foods. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make some rice. We've got some white rice in here. It just has water and a little bit of ghee, and we're going to put this in the sun oven, and we can actually, if we wanted to, we could stack pots too high and make two different things. Sometimes I'll make rice and then put a pot of beans on top, or you can make a pot of rice and you can put your dessert on top, and it's
my
great.
My favorite thing to do is I like to put one of our chickens, one of our Cornish crosses, you know, that we have our pasture chickens here, and I'll do two. I'll do the chicken and I'll do the rice together, and it's so simple. And then I make a salad, and then Doug and I have dinner.
Whole meal, 2 pots to wash. It's pretty simple. Right. So we'll set these in now, and then we'll come back and give this a try in a few minutes. See how nicely it just comes right off, and you don't have to go through any of the hassles that you would normally go through with a fresh egg. This egg was in the chicken less than 24 hours ago.
I'm always in such a hurry, I just want to eat it. Oh man.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, one of the nice things about making something in a sun oven is that even when it gets done, you don't have to take it out. We've been getting all kinds of things done today, and as we're cooking in all these ovens, and frankly, we kind of forgot about our corn. And this corn, the nice thing about it is you could cook it in probably 20 minutes, or we've had it in here now for probably close to 2 hours, and it's really not going to make much difference. But as you can see, because we haven't been tending to it, there's been some steam building up on the glass door, and that's one of the ways you always know when food is done in the sun oven. But
ooh, look at it.
You can take that, you can see that steam just pouring out there. We'll take these out and we'll try to get a nice sample of some of this sun-cooked corn. As you can see, as Stacy is pulling back this, they're hot, so it's kind of hard to do, but we're pulling it back. We've got perfect corn here. I can't wait to put some butter and salt on it. It really looks delicious. But it is very, very, very hot.
It's hot. Hot stuff. All right, so here's our corn. And then I'm going to put a little butter on here. Whoops. I might have to just do this.
If you remember when we started, we didn't have this boiling in water. All we did is just let the corn soak in some water, got the husks nice and moist, and then we literally used the husks to steam it. So we didn't use a lot of water in the process of doing it, and we're actually able to take the water that we had used to cook this in and just use it to water some of the plants when we got done. So.
That was so good. Because I don't like my corn mushy.
Nope, it's nice and cooked. Put some butter and salt on it, and literally kind of tastes like it melts in your mouth.
That was really good.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about getting prepared for emergencies. Probably the single biggest reason people get sun ovens is to have a way to cook without power. And if there was ever a time when there was a long-term power outage, having a way to cook is really, really important. Now, there's a lot of preparedness foods that people buy that are freeze-dried or dehydrated, and the sun oven is by far the most energy-efficient way to prepare your preparedness foods. If you read the packages of preparedness foods, they'll usually have a recipe or a formula on there that says something like boil 4 cups of water for each cup of whatever it is that you want to rehydrate, then pour the boiling water over and stir it together. Well, at most altitudes water boils at 212 degrees, but it takes as much energy to bring water from 200 degrees to 212 as it does from the ambient temperature up to 200. So boiling water takes a lot of energy. When you make preparedness foods in the sun oven, or dehydrate, freeze dried, or dehydrated foods in the sun oven, all you need to do is put it in a pot, take 25% less water than what the instructions on the packaging tell you to do, stir it thoroughly, put it in the sun oven, put a lid on the pot, and it will rehydrate without boiling the water first. So besides for saving energy, of course in a preparedness situation, the potable water can be an important issue, so using 25% less of your water for cooking can really have an advantage. But the big advantage is the taste. It's amazing the difference of the food when you, particularly freeze-dried foods, when you cook them in the sun oven without boiling the water first as opposed to pouring the water in, you'll find it has a completely different taste. You know, it's hard to get prepared for emergency because it can be really a strain on your budget, and you know, it's difficult if you're trying to get food stored for a long period of time while you're trying to feed your family today. But one of the benefits of the sun oven as a preparedness item is it will very quickly pay for itself. So many people tell us they'll get a sun oven. They find that by doing all their cooking outdoors and not having to have their oven work against their oven or stovetop work against trying to keep their house cool, it really makes a big difference and reduces your cooling costs. And the average American family spends about 14% of their utility budget on cooking fuel, but depending on where you live, you could spend a lot more than that on cooling. So if you just start using the sun oven, it will very, very quickly pay for itself. And then some people tell us that the money they save by using their sun oven is what they use to fund the rest of their food storage and emergency preparedness supplies. Another important consideration for preparedness, as well as depending on where you live, can make a big difference, is that you can use the sun oven to boil or pasteurize drinking water. Now, boiling and pasteurizing water does kill the biological contaminants in the water. Of course, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. However, pasteurizing water kills all of the same biological contaminants that boiling does, but water pasteurizes by bringing it to a temperature above 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 minutes. Now, of course, when you boil, you have the benefit of the bubbles to let you know that the water is boiled. This is a little device that is available for the sun oven. It's called a WAPI, or Water Pasteurization Indicator, and it has a plastic tube with a green wax. When this floats on the top of a pot or a mason jar, and when this green wax melts and goes to the bottom, then you know the water is pasteurized. Now, you can take this out of the water. The wax will reharden in less than 2 minutes. You can turn it over and you can reuse it hundreds of times, and it then allows you then to use it over and over again. Now, let's say you were going to do 6 mason jars of water in the sun oven. You would be able to, you only need one of the water pasteurization indicators because of the even heat in the sun oven. When one jar is done, then they're all done. And another advantage is I've talked to people about their preparedness plans. People have plans for a lot of different things, but very rarely do people consider hot water. And you know, the average American household uses more energy every day to heat water than they do to cook. Think of the number of times in a given day that you need hot water for doing dishes, personal hygiene, laundry. And so having a way to heat water that doesn't require fuel can really be an advantage, and the sun oven is a wonderful alternative just for having hot water. You can cook in it while you're eating your food. You can put pots in, heat water, and then do the dishes with that hot water. So it really is an important preparedness item, but more important is that if you get it for preparedness and you put it on a shelf and don't use it, you're going to miss all the benefits of just starting to use it right away, letting it pay for itself, and enjoying the delicious food you get by cooking with the sun. This turkey has been in here for quite a while, and I'm sure it's been done. One of the nice things is when you cook in the sun oven, it doesn't dry out. I had put a probe thermometer in it earlier just to make sure we knew when it was done, and we're showing now that we're up about 160, so I'm sure we're in good shape as far as finishing it. So we can take this out now, and I didn't think about unplugging the probe thermometer first. We've done that. There we go. We can take this out, put it on a platter, and what's amazing is when you make a turkey in the sun, the light meat of the turkey is actually going to taste more moist than what you normally would expect from a dark meat turkey. So we can remove this now.
It smells good.
you can see from the ghee that was rubbed on it earlier that it's, I guess it would have been a lot easier to take out if I would have taken the probe out. There we go. That it's cooked, and really will be a delicious meat.
So guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. It kind of means a lot to me, but if you're a new person and you just stumbled across this information, I bet you thought, wow, that is really something. So, and Paul reached out to us and also said, hey, congratulations on hitting 100,000 subscribers, and by helping get the word out about the All-American Sun Oven, he wants to do a giveaway right here on this channel right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to let you guys post comments till August 31st. You have till August 31st, 2017 to leave a comment down below and say the All-American Sun Oven is an awesome appliance, and that will just register you right there on the spot for your chance to win. And we're going to randomly select a winner on August 31st, 2017. All right, plus if you have other social media outlets, let's say you're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, then all you have to do is tag us, Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, and if you make a post and you just maybe take a clip from this video and put it on your Facebook, or tweet about it on Twitter, or if you take a picture of you watching the video on Instagram and put Off Grid with Doug and Stacy in the title, you know, tag us, then we'll see that also, and we'll add you another way that you could win the All-American Sun Oven. And then we're going to take all the people that do that all the way till the 31st of August 2017, and then we're going to randomly select one person who's going to win the All-American Sun Oven. Now, if you're a person who doesn't feel so lucky, maybe you never won anything before, but you want to take advantage of getting an All-American Sun Oven, we do have a link provided down below that can save you money on your purchase. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Hopefully you guys learned a little something and you thought, wow, I didn't know the All-American Sun Oven could do that. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our video. You might want to check out these videos.
And if you want to become a Homestead homie, click the picture of us below.
We will see you tomorrow.